Hello, my name is Ishan, and today I'll be presenting my individual assignment of organizational behavior regarding the Mars model. So I've received 77 on conscientiousness. That means, as I see the bifurcation of conscientiousness, I've received higher side on dutifulness. That is, I complete all the tasks on time, and orderliness. That is, I'm highly organized and I really like to make up my bed before I leave and all those stuff. And on self efficacy, I've received a higher score. In conscientiousness, that means I have this common sense and intelligent drive in me which strives me to achieve success in life. And as for the self discipline part, it has lowered my score in conscientiousness. That is, I'm easily driven by some, you know, some desires to subside my activity which I really need to do my task, and like eating some pastry if I have to lose weight. Yeah. And for agreeableness I received 92, which is a very high score. And the reason for that is that I'm pretty much sympathetic and moral towards people. I really like to help people, and I believe in the philosophy that if you help people, then it will come back to you. The god will give you rewards. And yeah, so my score on agreeableness is higher. And then there comes openness to experience. I am pretty much emotional. That is, I have a good awareness of my feelings, and I'm so much imaginative. Even when the professor is like teaching in the class, I tend to make the pictures of those uh, in my mind. And you know, I'm so much adventurous as well. I mean, I love to travel. That's why I have come to Canada for my studies as an international student from India. And I really like to take parts in everything. I mean, I'm not good in cooking, but I'm currently working at Tim Hortons. So that explains it. And then for neuroticism, I've received 76, which is higher. And the reason for that is my anxiety. I really get anxious when I try to do new things. And in that anxiety, I end up doing the things wrong sometimes. And I really get angry as well on people, which I really need to control. But uh, as far as the depression part of neuroticism is concerned, I've received a lower score, which is good. And for extraversion at last, I've received 88. And the reason for that is I'm so much assertive and cheerful. I really tend to indulge in tasks and put my thing ahead in front of everybody, and that's the reason. And then for friendliness, I've received a higher score in extraversion. I am so much looking forward to know each other and about the various cultures, and you know uh, making them feel comfortable. And then you know for activity level, I've received a low score. That is, I like to work at a relaxed pace uh, rather than a fast paced environment. Yeah, so that's the reason. Now I'll be talking about some of my life experiences and comparing them with the Mars model. So I remember when I came to Canada last September, I was hunting for a part-time job, and the main reason for that was to manage my expenses. And then, I remember I was making my resumes, and I was not, getting a call back from any employer when I was distributing resumes to all the retail and all the food outlets in Canada. that is mainly the customer service points. And I found out that the main reason was my resume and my strategy to find a part-time job. I mean, I became more conscientious towards finding a part-time job. I really started, asking for the manager instead of giving my resume to any random employee in the store. And I really worked upon my resume as well. I really, started making separate resumes for retail and food, to highlight the points which the employer is looking for according to the job description. And yeah, so that's how I got the part-time job at Tim Hortons. Finally, after searching for 4 to 5 months, I mean, that's a long period, and I became less agreeable as well. I mean, I was, so much trustworthy towards those people who told me that they will carry forward my resume to their employer. They were not. That's why I'm not hearing back from them. And, you know, I really, started asking for the manager, as I said, instead of trusting those people. And, you know, in the end, it got worked out. And then I became really extroverted, and my extroversion level really increased as I come to Canada. I mean, earlier back home, I was not, so much open to people, open talking to them, and putting my thoughts forward. But as I've come here, I've really, you know, I've really become so much extroverted. I really ask so many people about their well-being, and whether be it at my workplace or just normally, like at the college. So yeah, and that's how I got the job. I mean, I became so much open talking to the managers and telling them about my personality traits, which will, you know match up their job description. And yeah, in the end, I became successful in finding a job at Tim Hortons, where I am working currently and happily. So I remember it was my social science exam. I was in my 10th standard in my high school, and in my previous exam, I hadn't scored well enough. So I was like, I have to really perform in this test, which was my like pre board, which is like the exam which is just before the final exam. And I was studying really hard for it. And then my father was like, I have planned a trip to Andaman and Nicobar Island, so we all would have to go there. And I refused him. Like, I don't want to go there. I have to study for my exam. I was so much, determined to achieve my goal, to score well. But he was like, no, you will have to come. We have no other option. So he got this trip from the Indian government. It's like a free trip which he used to get, once in 4 years, where the government is paying all the expenses of the trip. And so in the end, I had to go. I was so much high agreeable back then. Yeah. So yeah. And then I carried all my textbooks with me, and I was like studying constantly in the airplane. And I used to maintain a schedule then that when I would come back from the excursion outside to the hotel room, then I would study for this much hour. And I had planned so much well enough to cover all the syllabus. I was not able to cover all the syllabus, but pretty much all of it, and I was so much high conscientious back then. I mean, I was really determined to achieve my goal. And I was really organized, I was goal focused, disciplined, yeah. And it was really a new experience for me. I mean, it was very unconventional to study for an exam while you are at the trip, while you are at the beach. uh, but I had this self efficacy in me, like I can do it. And yeah, so this situational factor, like going to the trip, you know didn't stop me from achieving my goal, which I'm really proud of myself. And in the end, let's conclude this story. I scored 60 out of 80, and all my friends were like, "You went on to the trip. How did you score this much?" Because they scored less than me. And the irony is that they were like studying at home, and I was like enjoying the trip while studying, and I scored more than them. While in the previous exam, it was the opposite. I scored less than them. So the tables have turned. Yeah, and I was really happy with the result. And even the teacher acknowledged me that you have scored well. Uh, you have scored more than your previous exam, you know. But she didn't know that how I managed to do so. Yeah, there is one more incident like while I was searching for a part-time job in Canada, I went to Subway and where I met the owner and she hired me after 2 weeks after interviewing me. And then, I was so much weak in cooking. I was not cutting the sandwiches correctly, and yeah, I was so much highly agreeable. I mean, I listened to all the people, like my friends, that you would not be able to work properly, so just leave the job. And I was so much neurotic while, I was making the sandwiches. My anxiety was on top because I really tend to, struggle while I am doing the new things, and this thing was the one where I am weak at. And I was so much low conscientious, like I was not practicing at home, I was not watching the cooking videos or doing any training regarding my job. So I left the job after one day. And one more incident is there, like they were not paying me for the training. I was working there for free, and they had told me before I got hired, which I didn't know back then. It was, illegal to work for free, and every employer should be paying you for the work they are getting done from you. And this thing I got to know from my roommates, and you know I was so much highly agreeable that I left the job for this reason as well, which I believe I shouldn't have done because I've sat idle for so many months after that. So it would have been better to work for some weeks for free and then work at sin that is legally. And yeah, okay, so there are some personality traits which are essential to be an accountant, which I have found. First one is you shine behind the scenes. That means accountants are being best staying behind the scenes rather than being in spotlight at their work. And the second one is detail orientation. I mean, they have to pay very close attention to the detail. Even the smallest errors in their work can lead to major money problems in the business. And then there is technological proficiency. Accounting requires a lot of calculations, but it is not just about math. One needs to know how to work with the software and other tech tools, like being a professional at creating and updating spreadsheets. And then there is strong work ethic. You know, accounting requires a great amount of commitment to their work. They have to work at the tax seasons and more often during these times, and they have to put in that extra effort to finish their work. And then there is team player. Being able to work with others can help you thrive in accounting. If you possess leadership skills in your team, you can train and mentor them well, and it can help in your career path as well. And then there is sense of accountability. I mean, accountability for their work which they are doing. They are managing the accounts of the business, and they shouldn't be indulging and practicing any uh, thing which is not good. I mean, a malpractice and a fraud thing shouldn't be happening from their side, and they should be honest about their work. And then there is being adaptable and creative. They should be adaptable to any new technology that is coming in the market, and they should be creative at the same time to handle that technology as well. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to talk about my strengths of the Mars model. I'm really highly conscientious. That means I really do my tasks on time, and to be an accountant, you have to do the work at all the seasons and you have to get the work on time. And there is so much workload in this field, and you have to, you know, do extra shifts, and it's really a responsible job for which I think I am eligible. And then there is openness to experience. I mean, there is this new technology as well in this field, like, creating and updating spreadsheets and all those stuff. And for that, I will be, so much enthusiastic about that thing. I mean, I will be learning a lot every day when I'll be, you know, doing my job. So I'm open to experience new things in this field. And then there is, you know, I'm going to talk about the weaknesses in the Mars model which I possess. There is high neuroticism. I mean, I really get anxious when I do new things, but I really need to manage that because I will be messing up things in my field. If I get anxious, I will not be using my brain. Instead, I will be, doing the things, not in a good way, in a messy way, and that will not be good for the organization. Then there is high agreeableness. I mean, to be an accountant, you have to follow a strong work ethic. You shouldn't be coming in anybody else's influence. I mean, it's a very, as I said, a very high responsible job. So you should do your work ethically and without any malpractice, and without any wrongdoing in the business. So there are people in every organization, so they might influence their bad intentions towards you. So you shouldn't be, so much highly agreeable in this field, and you should, carry your own thing with your own mind. So lastly, I'm going to talk about some ways to work at my weaknesses. Firstly, it will be like doing yoga and exercises to manage my anxiety. I mean, I have, listened to so many people who do yoga that it really helps. So I think that would be great to, you know, include that in my routine. And then sharing my problems with my family members and my close friends to, manage my stress so that I don't feel like burnt out within myself. And I think, sharing problems really help you a lot. It really reduces your stress load. And then learning to say no without any hesitation if I feel so. I mean, that relates to the agreeable part. I mean, if you feel that somebody is not, you know, right, and don't be like uh, sugarcoat sugarcoating that stuff and saying to that person that you are right, and just straight away say a no, and don't come in under influence of anybody, like, do this, do that. If you feel so that he or she is, you know misguiding you and getting taking an advantage of you, then learn to say a no straight away. And then there is maintaining a strong conviction of my work ethic, that what I am doing is right. I mean, that thing can be done only by believing in myself, and you know I mean, I should be believing that I'm doing my job in the right way, not come under somebody else's influence, and don't be that much agreeable, you know. So I think that will really help. And thank you. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening to me.